Here we go.
Boogie is a 2021 film release. It's rated R and it runs 1 hour and 30 minutes. It is written and directed by Eddie Huang.
So to understand how I found this film, you would have to understand that at a certain point, I was introduced to the writer and director, Eddie Huang. His claim to fame was that he was or probably still is, a restaurateur and a chef that kind of caught some acclaim because he's Chinese American and he was cooking food in New York that kind of caught people's attention. You know, he opened a restaurant called Bao, and through that's kind of how I found him. You know, I think from there, I've also consumed some of his content on YouTube, where he was doing a show where he was, in a sense, speaking on how food brings us together and how different cultures, their food resembles that. And being a Chinese American, how his growth from child to an adult was affected by the fact that, you know, he was a Chinese American, he ate different food, and kind of all that as aspects, and then also how that, you know, how he related to others. And then also he had a hip hop background. You know, growing up in the area that he grew up, hip hop was pretty prevalent, and as a Chinese American, he kind of, you know, took on that culture and those experiences to help him develop who he has become.
The coming of age story of Alfred Boogie Chin, played by Taylor Takahashi, is a basketball phenom living in Queens, New York, who dreams of one day playing in the NBA. While his parents pressure him to focus on earning a scholarship to an elite college, Boogie must find a way to navigate a new girlfriend, high school, on-court rivals, and the burden of expectation.
So upon watching the film, you know, we meet the character Alfred. Okay, and you know, this film is definitely a coming name to age story. You know, Alfred's in high school. You know, he's going through struggles most of us go through. I think the main difference is the fact that he's Chinese American. He has Chinese parents who were immigrants and had to really struggle to get here. You know, as the story develops, we start to see that their story of getting here was pretty rough, and the fact that what their mission was when they got here had changed. You know, a lot of things had changed and it didn't go the way they expected. But they have this child that they're trying to rear up right and get them to a point where they can succeed on their own. You know, Alfred's in high school, and so he's going through the normal struggles as any other high school, but he can play basketball. Okay, so he has dreams of, like many kids, to play in the NBA, but he has to go through the loop, twists, and the turns to get there, because not everyone who can play basketball gets to the NBA. We all know that. Alfred's a little bit of a hardhead. You know, there's some friction between the parents and authority. You know, in general, he's got some issues there. But it all kind of really stems from the fact that, as we see in the story, being Chinese American is not as easy as you would think. It comes through with its ups and downs. I'm sure there's some racism in there as well. It just becomes a situation where the only people he can really trust on or trusting is his family. I think also at a certain point we see that Alfred takes on a girlfriend, you know, which is, you know, again, a normal American kind of situation. She becomes someone he can confide in when he can't confide in his parents or his family, because it seems like they all want different things for him, and the girlfriend seems to be someone who wants what he wants, if that's what he really wants. It just kind of comes down to the fact that if that's what he really wants, that's crazy. So for Boogie, I'm giving this film a solid 3. I feel that this debut film from Eddie Huang is solid. I think for me, what's most interesting about this film is the fact that this is a film through a Chinese American lens, and then we also get the fact, a little sense of what it is like to be Chinese immigrant in this film, you know, when we speak on the parents and what they want for their child, and then also to see how their story didn't necessarily go the way it is, but they still strive to have the best outcome for their child. I think the way the film ends and, you know, the rest of the film, it's pretty standard. You know, like I said, we've seen this story some way, somehow, and so I'm not going to be disappointed about that, but I would have hoped for for something a little more dynamic. You know, hopefully Eddie Huang gets an opportunity to do another film, and he comes with something different. But like I said, I like the biggest part of this film is the fact that it comes from a different perspective. So that has been my review for Boogie, a 2021 film release, written and directed by Eddie Huang. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you like one, build the channel because you've seen other videos or other content I posted, definitely subscribe. And if you've actually seen this film, definitely leave me a comment in the comment box below. Let me know if I'm talking crazy here and you don't agree at all with this review. Leave that in the description box below. Maybe something you've seen in the film makes it better. Maybe something you saw in the film makes it worse. I don't know. Or if this review intrigues you to want to go watch this film, come back and leave something in the description box below, and we can start a conversation within this film. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, so for coming up for next week, the movie I'll be reviewing is Old. It is a M. Night Shyamalan film. I'm intrigued to watch this one and review for you. So yeah, like we always do at this time, have a blessed day. I will see you on the flip side. Let's go.